I'd like to talk to you about a project that was done by my great-great-grandfather, Charles Black of Vignoles, who was president of the institution here in 1870. In 1853, he had just finished constructing a big suspension bridge in Russia and was then working on some railways in Europe. In the early 19th century, access into the interior of Brazil was very limited, and the Brazilians wanted to export their coffee and other products. And the upshot was that a company in London, the Bahia and San Francisco Railway, received a concession to build the first 120 kilometres of the line. That was all they had to do initially, but they had an option to extend the line further if they wanted to. The project started in 1858, and Hutton was sent out there, Hutton Vignoles, to be the resident engineer and report back to his father on a monthly basis as to the progress of the works. And he also had to do the detailed survey on the ground. In the meantime, a contractor was appointed, John Watson, who was a civil engineer, former colleague of Charles Vignoles, who had built railways for him in the north of England. And he employed a workforce with a corps of English engineers, and they had a large pool of unskilled labour of the locals in Bahia to help with the work. And when it came to build things like tunnels and bridges, he hired some Italian engineers who'd had experience in railways as well. Materials for all the work were basically manufactured in Britain and then shipped in on the monthly steamer and stockpiled and then assembled on site. The project was completed by 1864, and my great-grandfather Hutton then returned to England with his family. However, a number of his colleagues remained in Bahia, and some of them remained working on the railway, remained doing maintenance and running it, and also building warehouses for the produce, while others went elsewhere in Brazil and helped on some of the other railways that were being built, mainly by British engineers. And in 1901, the concession expired and the Brazilian government took over the railway. While some of it has fallen into disrepair, it's quite interesting to note that the first 12 kilometres, which was dualled in the early parts of the last century, has been used for the last 40 or 50 years as a mass transit railway, taking people from the suburbs into the city, and that is still happening to this day. I became a civil engineer because I was interested in the work done by my great-great-grandfather, and I got very much interested in how things were done, how things were constructed. When I graduated, I worked for a bridge designer for a number of years, and then went into general construction, where I provided engineering expertise on various projects. The most recent one was the big bridge over the River Severn, the second Severn crossing, which I found extremely interesting. When I was working, I took interest in the fact that I was working on a bridge over a river, which is not all that different from the bridge over the river that my great-great-grandfather was building all those years ago. I would very much recommend civil engineering as a career for a young person, because there's all sorts of opportunities, and in my time I got involved in many different projects, and I always found them interesting, and they were very varied, and it was a very rewarding career.